ESO Personalised, proud sponsor of the Impacted podcast. Why not visit their website on www.esopersonalised.co.uk. Your brand is our business.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Impacted with myself, the Bison, and joining me today.
Coming up from the void, it is the channeling ignorance through the empty space. It is the Joker.
Hello, Joe. How you doing, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, really looking forward to doing today's show, just like I always am. Because this guy's great. So just give you a quick rundown. Obviously, this is Impacted. What we do is we talk about, we take characters from the Impact roster and we discuss them a little bit in depth. We talk about their past, their present, and their future. When we talk about the future, I think it's more speculation, obviously, because we don't really know where they're going. But it's fun to speculate, and then obviously later on see whether any of our predictions have come true. Is that right, Joe?
That's right. Yes.
It is definitely a lot of fun to do that. Okay, so this week we are dealing with probably the biggest scumbag on the roster. Would you agree, Joe?
Oh, he's terrible. You only got some scum of the earth.
Absolute scum of the earth, isn't he? Absolute scum of the earth. And we are dealing with the Triple X Division champion,
Ace Austin.
We certainly are, Ace Austin. Now,
Ace is up.
Ace is up. Ace. Now let's sort of kind of break this dude down. Now Ace is an incredible in-ring performer, isn't he?
He's blowing me away. I was excited hearing that he's coming in, and I'd rarely seen him on TV, but I knew he was a hot talent, and I knew he was someone that would make an impact. And my God, he's made an impact.
Oh, he certainly has. He certainly has. Now, again, he's also a very young man, isn't he? I think when he came into the company, he was only 22 years old. Now he's champion. Obviously, he's 23, but 22 years old when he came into the company. He's 5'8". I think his thighs are probably 5'8" as well. He's definitely got a massive set of thighs on him, which he uses to great effect in the ring, doesn't he?
Well, his in-ring ability is fantastic. From the kicks, the submission, even the submission skills. Now you're starting to see come through, and can't ignore his high-flying ability.
No, I think he's sort of almost one of them like modern hybrid wrestlers where he's Joe, you've disappeared. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
He's one of those kind of like more modern hybrid wrestlers, isn't he? That is, he's good. He's good at the technical wrestling, but and he's also can fly. He's hard hitting, and he effectively he's just a rounded performer when it comes to his in work. Great guy. I think that it took a little while for us to sort of kind of get into his character, but we'll get to that in a second. So previously to joining Impact, he sort of started to craft, build his abilities, craft his skills. Promotions like Combat Zone. He spent a bit of time at MLW. He was also on House of Hardcore. I think actually, it probably was Tommy Dreamer that said it started to sort of kind of like got the wheels in motion for him to end up on Impact, because at the end of the day, Tommy is obviously there behind the scenes, and he must have said, look, you need to look at this guy.
Tommy knows the legend. Tommy knows a potential superstar when he sees one.
Yeah, he definitely saw it in Ace, I think. He also did some work with WXW, and I didn't know this until I did a bit of research, but he also spent a little bit of time down in Mexico with AAA. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Most of what I know about his career is where he is now. He's with Impact. He does a lot of work with Pro Wrestling Revolver, which is Sami Callihan's promotion. He does a lot of work there, and I think I knew he was at House of Hardcore once. He's done a couple of spots there. but I didn't know it was he'd started there, because I'd seen him with Eddie Edwards a few times.
Yeah, no, it was yeah. So again, I think he'd been doing some of that stuff with Wrestling Revolver pre coming to Impact. So again, you know, as we all know, that Sammy does have quite an influence when it comes to some of the wrestlers that end up on the Impact product. So, you know, I think you probably had Tommy Dreamer, you know, saying this guy's great. You probably had Sammy saying, look, come on, you know, you really need to look at this dude. And I think, like, probably between the two of them, that they started to look, they started to pay attention to him. So I mean, his debut was in March 2019. Like we were saying before we started, mate, he's literally been there for 1 whole year. And with the amount of stuff that he's done, you know, I was actually really surprised when I quickly, you know, when I was checking my statistics to find out exactly, you know, my information. That he debuted in only last year. I honestly thought that he debuted. Oh, the telephone's going. I honestly thought that he'd debuted a lot earlier than that. But no, it was. I actually honestly thought he debuted towards the end of 2018. But yeah, no, it looks like he debuted. Well, he did. He debuted in March 2019, and that was against Jake Atlas. He obviously defeated Jake. You know, it was revealed then that Ace had signed with the company, which was again, you know, great news, because at that time there was a few people that they were starting to announce a few sort of kind of fresh talents being signed. Which was good. I think there was somebody else in that month around that time as well, but I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But they were starting to sign people, and it was a multi-year deal. And I think that it started to show that how Impact now are investing in the young, up and coming talents, that they're going to continue this creating their own stars. You know, not just, you know, pulling in people from ex WWEs or whatever. I'm sure we'll get a few of them, and we have, obviously, with Madman Fulton, etc. But you know, at the end of the day, they're not going to rely on that. That's not what Impact are about. They're gonna build their stars, and I think Ace is a prime example of that. The way that he came in, like I said, they made him look strong with Jake straight off the bat. They then revealed that he'd signed a multi-year deal, which was great. In the coming weeks, we then saw him defeat the likes of Aiden Prince. He also lost to Aiden Prince as well. Yeah. Damian Hyde. And then we eventually saw him start a feud with P.T. Williams. Now, just like going back a little bit, that match with Aiden Prince, that was an incredible match, wasn't it?
That match, for me, was the stamping point that Ace Austin is a serious competitor, and he is someone that, you know, we've seen Aiden Prince in Impact a few times, and Aiden Prince is fantastic. You know, love to go to Prince City. I mean, Prince Impact's a lot more, but Ace Austin taking that loss against Aiden Prince, even in a strong match, and then just whacking him with that stick and things like that. You know, you could see Ace Austin was someone. He's no joke. He's someone.
He's a force to be reckoned with, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, I think he was solidifying that. At that moment in time, he was solidifying the fact that he was going to be, you know, he wasn't there just to make the numbers up. He was there, you know, to be a badass. And I think that, and again, you know, like you say, he's been at, you know, groups like House of Hardcore, etc. So, you know, he's obviously not adverse to getting stuck in and hard hitting style. And I think, I think that was starting to come through there. With regards to Aiden, though, just on a side note, I'd really love to see Aiden signed to Impact. I think, I know we get to see him when they do the Canadian tapings, but I do think that he'd be one hell of an addition to the roster. I'd like to see Aiden. I'd like to see Aiden signed. I think he'd be great. Again, you know, a total professional, in the ring, does some really cool stuff. Great to watch. And he is pretty good on the mic as well. I've seen a few of the things that he's done on the mic through other promotions. And I think he's a pretty solid performer. He'd make a good addition to the Impact team. However, we're not here to talk about Aiden, but I did want to throw that one in there because I think he's a pretty solid performer. Do you think?
I was impressed with Aiden Prince when I first saw him, and I've complimented him a few times when I've had the chance to drop him a message, and he's been pretty grateful for the feedback too. So he's someone that will integrate with the fans, and he's someone that Impact should at least consider looking into a lot more. I think because
I think so too. And I think he appreciates. I think he understands the social media stuff, like we were talking about with other wrestlers in the past. I mean, Ace, we could talk about Ace on Twitter. He's pretty good on as well when it comes to social media and his interaction with other wrestlers as well as the fans as well. He's an interesting one when it comes to all of that. And I think it's very important in this modern era of professional wrestling that you are up on that side of things, because I think that the interaction with the fans, the interaction on social media and stuff like that is actually really important, and it really sort of kind of helps you get over with the fans as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's playing into the next generation of wrestlers a lot more. It's really, really it's helped out guys like Joey Ryan. People don't take him seriously, but you see the amount of promotions he does online, and he does straight talking and stuff. So he knows his stuff about wrestling as well. And Ace Austin's another one.
That lad can wrestle. Yeah, I mean, let's face the fact, Joey Ryan, although all right, he's got a bit of a gimmick going on, but the guy can wrestle. He's a great wrestler. But yeah. So, and I think you're right. Ace is sort of kind of in that vein where he effectively sort of kind of really uses the social media element to create heat as well. With some of the things that he says, sort of kind of, proper get some serious heat.
Yeah. Some of the reactions he gets to matches and that is fantastic. Makes you laugh, and it also brings out his character a lot more. He's
playing his character. He's playing a role, and he's doing really, really well with it too. So what we saw, obviously, from Aiden Prince, from the Damien Hyde matches, we then sort of kind of saw it move on to Petey Williams. Now, obviously, Petey Williams being a X Division champion, one of the founding performers of the X Division when it was first created. I think that was a good idea. I think that was a good way to sort of kind of get him over to say, look, this guy, he's X Division all the way. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're going to put him in, and we're going to let Petey really, give him a workout, and we can really see what he can do. And I think that feud worked really, really well. Obviously, it ended up with Petey being defeated, because obviously we need to push forward Ace Austin. And that, I think, then solidified Ace as a real contender for that X Division championship. Do you think?
Yeah, like you said, Petey Williams is one of the backbones to the X Division, and there was on the roster at the moment. There's no better person to put someone over than either Petey Williams or Tommy Dreamer. And Tommy Dreamer sadly can't go as well as Petey can in the type of matches you'd expect him to. Although we did see, we'll talk about it later on, Tommy Dreamer and Ace Austin, they've put on different style of matches together.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll come to that later.
We'll get to that later, but yeah, Tommy did one hell of a job in that match. I mean, they proper got Ace over. That did. Okay, so obviously at that moment we were starting to really see what he could do in the ring. My only criticism in that time or at that point was actually there's an interesting point I want to bring up in a minute, but at that point I don't think he was he didn't come across as comfortable on the mic. I I found when he was on the mic, he was a little bit disjointed. I think maybe, you know, the character at the time he was trying to portray just wasn't him. And I think at that point, the mic, I don't know, the mic work wasn't that good. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, like all newcomers, you have to find that stable ground, and he just turned heel, and he was just trying to find the right way to portray himself as a heel to really sell himself in the company. You know, he was playing more of an arrogant character rather than someone who's literally looking to get under your skin, like he did with Eddie Edwards.
Well, I think when he first came in, he was more. I think he was trying to be a face. So
yeah,
I think the fate when he first came in, that first sort of few months, that's what I'm talking about, really more than moving on from that point. I think up to that point there, where before he sort of really started to heel it up, he was trying to be face, and I think clearly he wasn't comfortable doing that. And I don't know. I think it was almost like Impact were like, right, okay, you could eventually be the face of the company. You know what I mean? That kind of So we really need to get you over as a face. I think that's probably where they were going with it. But the bottom line is that it didn't suit him. It didn't suit him, and I don't think he was particularly comfortable being this nice character. I think that, a lot of the stuff he's always done in the past, he's always been a little bit more. He's been a bit more heely. So I think that or arrogant, or you know what I mean, along those sort of kind of lines, where he's
got that chip on his shoulder.
Yes, exactly. Whereas at the start of his Impact run, he was trying to be a face, and I don't think it worked. I don't think that worked at all, and I don't think he was comfortable with it. So I think as the time moved on, they started to realise that fairly quickly, and then said, right, okay, let's start going a bit more arrogant. Let's start going towards becoming a heel. And then I think, at that point, that is when we started to see the out of ring stuff improve. And I have to admit, he's improved very, very quickly. Because at that point, I wasn't overly convinced that he was going to be that great. But he certainly came along and has turned that around, doesn't he?
I was impressed with him from day one, so I haven't got much criticism on his in-ring ability. But we've already covered a bit on his promos about how choppy they were to start off with. But I knew after seeing him coming, just coming down to the ring, he had that confidence to perform in the ring. And
well, he's got the X factor.
Yeah, he's got the triple X factor, and he's just looking
factor, or whatever you want to call it. He's got the factor.
Yeah. He just needed a way to portray himself better backstage, and he's adapted very, very quickly, which is really impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we then started to see the which I think is the start of Ace Austin becoming what he is today. That is the ultimate scumbag. But then obviously we had the storyline start with Alicia Edwards and Eddie Edwards.
Or Alicia.
Yeah, I mean, it started with Alicia, which then led to a feud with Eddie, which was a good move because Eddie is well and truly over with the crowd. So if you want to create a heel, then you've got to put it in with someone who is a true face, right? So the crazy Eddie was ready for Ace Austin, that's for sure. And I think this was really the start of creating the Ace Austin that we see today. So so basically he backstage he was starting to perv over Alicia, but in a sort of kind of like chatting her up kind of way. We all saw what he was doing, but of course she couldn't see what he was doing. And then that obviously led to questions coming from Eddie. What's going on? What's going on here then? Kind of scenario. That eventually led to him informing the locker room that he was going to bang Eddie's wife, which which I think everyone was like, what?
Yeah, even my jaw dropped. You know, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was like, oh my god, that's craziness.
Poor Alicia.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, you know, she obviously wasn't seen on any of these video vignettes, but there you go. Yeah, so that sort of kind of started the whole the real heel scumbag of Ace Austin. I think it proper cemented him at that moment. Like, he literally, the moment he said that, I think it was like, oh my god. Like,
Yeah.
did he just say that? It reminded me of Booker T. Did he just say that? Really?
Yeah.
Did he just say that? You know, so it's kind of like, yeah, I thought that was incredible. Do you know what? I think Ace Austin should be brought in front of the wrestlers' court, actually, for some of his.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, for some of his scumbaggery that he gets involved with. I think that would be hilarious. But
he's got a few tricks up his sleeve to get out.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine Tommy Dreamer sort of kind of like reading off his offences? But anyway,
God.
That would be mental. So obviously, this then built into the feud with Eddie. We then saw some insane matches with Eddie, like proper full-on hardcore, hard-hitting matches. There was a street fight and all sorts, wasn't there? I mean, at one point, Eddie was like literally trying to kill him. It was just, it was crazy. Yeah. And of course, you had Alicia in there who's not seeing what's going on. She's like, poor Ace, you know, come on, stop being so possessive, Eddie, you know, blah, blah, blah. Nothing going on. He's just being friendly, which of course then eventually led to the storyline continuing until eventually Alyssa heard Ace making a comment about, you know, banging her and all this kind of stuff, and she then decided to set him up. Basically, she set him up. Didn't she? He obviously went back to Eddie and said, you know, okay, I get you. I understand what's going on. I've heard this, blah, blah, blah. And then they set up the whole hotel thing, didn't they?
Yeah. I love the whole build of it. Ace Austin, he gets Reno Scum in to steal Alicia's handbag and all this. And Eddie Edwards is there on his own. He's there, and he's like the only friend he's got is Kenny. He's there tearing his out to Kenny. Yeah, Kenny, you're the only friend I've got. You're the only one I can believe. He believes me, and so it's like it leaps back to Eddie Edwards, Moose, and Sammy Callahan, and how all that's affected him. It's just again testament to Impact for continuing on storylines that have come up in the past and keeping Eddie Edwards' character so consistent as well. You know, and
I think what people go on. Sorry.
Hats off to Ace Austin for getting Reno Scum in as well.
Yeah, that was great. I think that I think what people don't appreciate about the storytelling on Impact, you know, because it's something that you don't get anywhere else, right? And definitely. I think what people don't realise is the continuity and flow that's created through their storytelling. Like everything. It's you know, it really is like a soap opera as opposed to just disjointed storylines, right? Because
definitely
every single story effectively that is going on within Impact, they all intertwine with each other. Now, some of these people, that goes over people's heads. Some people don't realise that. They don't understand. They don't notice how these storylines, you know, ultimately interact with each other, and then they build into the next storyline, which is always ends up being referenced to previous storylines.
Yeah, we've not had it since the Attitude Era, basically.
No, we've not had that kind of interaction. That is one of the great things about Impact storytelling, and I wish people would really appreciate that. I wish they could start to see that how much and how much thought and time clearly goes into how they build their storylines, and it's not. You know, it's not just, you know, you've got this storyline going on over here, you've got this storyline going on over there, you've got somebody else doing this storyline, someone else is doing this, someone else doing that, and they're all completely disjointed from each other. There's no true connection, and I think that is one of the things that Impact do so well. They get those connections. Everyone somewhere, you know, they'll even do it in a sense that they'll bring somebody who's not connected to that storyline at all, right? They'll just suddenly have them in for almost like a cameo, like someone will just sort of like kind of turn up and make a cameo in that storyline and then disappear again, and you won't see them again. But you know, they've almost been the catalyst to drive the story forward. You know, do you know what I mean?
The dean has to come up and question Ace Austin about what he's doing, and so you think the dean is to be getting involved, but nothing else comes of it. So Ace Austin, again, leading up to before when he says he's going to go and bang Alicia Edwards, he's there, he's taunting everyone else in the back, like the dean is. He's taunting Falavar. He's making himself look the arrogant arsehole that he is, and you see the reaction on the rest of the roster's faces, and it just shows again more integration from the entire roster. They're not just keeping it about Ace Austin, Eddie Edwards, and Alicia. They're making sure everyone in the locker knows what he's like.
I think what they also do is that if they've got someone who's not necessarily involved in in-ring action at that moment in time, they'll bring them into the storyline. So they'll do a little bit, they'll do a vignette, or they'll be involved in an interview backstage, or there'll be something go. They'll bring them in somewhere so that they're involved in stuff, and they're kept relevant, even if they've not had a match for 2 or 3 episodes. They'll still be in there somewhere doing something. And I think. Go on, sorry.
They did it with Kiera Hogan, and they did it with Taya Valkyrie. Every time Kiera Hogan or Jordan Grace would have a promo, Taya Valkyrie would come in and make herself center stage again. Yes,
exactly, and it's very clever how they do it. And I think that, you know, again, the intricacies of storytelling on Impact is definitely underrated, and needs to be given a lot more props. I think that, you know, they do a fantastic job on that, and they've done a great job with Ace. There's no doubt about it. I think they've come up with a storyline and they've really gone with it. And of course, like you said, unfortunately, the storyline is ended. I say unfortunately, it's not unfortunate. I suppose it's exactly what he deserves. Getting caught out at the hotel room, Eddie Edwards basically waiting for him, and jumps him and gives him an absolute beating out in the corridor of the hotel room and everything. I thought Ace totally got his comeuppance. Do you think?
It was like you laughed. It was a feel, and it was the sense of satisfaction that you got the justification. It was just great to see Alicia and Eddie Edwards get the happy ending again.
I thought it was that was just insane. But I think at that moment, that whole storyline effectively then gave Impact because they saw how well he got over, they saw how good he was. Yes, you know, and the whole heel and arrogance thing, it worked really, really well. Now, obviously, they've now built this character, so they've got to continue that character on. But they've built this character and it's working. And so they obviously saw that Ace was definitely ready for something. So we then saw at BFG, the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, we saw the X Division 3-way title ladder match, which was Tessa, Daga, Jake, Ace Romero was in that, if you remember. That was incredible. Yes. Tessa pushes him off the ladder onto the outside. That was insane.
That was scary.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, we see him eventually becoming the X Division champion by climbing and pushing Tessa off the ladder, and, you know, claiming that X Division title for himself. In terms of where that then went, because obviously we now have X Division champion Ace Austin, you know, obviously all of a sudden we start going into this almost porn star version of Ace Austin. So we end up with the Triple X Division champ, not just the X Division, but the Triple X Division champ. So yeah, we saw some interesting video packages where he's obviously being booked now to star in some interesting porn shows, which is just quite hilarious. I like the way that they did it as well, because obviously you don't see anything, you don't see nothing. It was it was just a really I thought it was very, very clever the way that they did it. That was good. So of course, then obviously we that led on then to the T-shirt being released of the 316 Ace Austin, I Just Banged Your Wife. I believe it's quite a big seller, as far as I'm aware. I know that in the New York tapings, they didn't have it on the Thursday, but on the Friday it got released, and the old Kyle Scumbag was straight in there. He was like one of the first. He suddenly, because what happened was he went, "Oh, I just pop into the toilet," and I said, "All right, mate, yeah, in a bit." So off he went. He was gone for ages, absolutely ages, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he's got the Ace Austin 316 T-shirt on, and I'm like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I couldn't help myself, so I had to get it." But so that was good, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "Are they selling that? Are they selling that?" And we were like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I just bought it over there. And like literally, you had like people were heading for the merch straight away. And I don't know whether they sold out, but there was definitely a lot of those T-shirts sold that night, which was quite funny. I got another story to tell about that in a bit with regards to Ace Austin performing that night. So obviously that then led to the next feud. I think we had a couple of X Division things going on, but then that sort of kind of nicely led into the feud with Trey Miguel. So obviously I think we ended up with an X Division title match or something like that. At the end of it, Trey lost, but it turned out that Trey's mom was in the crowd, and as soon as Ace found that out, he was like, "Well, hello." So I think that sort of kind of we then went from wives to mums, didn't we?
Yeah. So, it kept his womanizing character going. It kept the whole cocky and arrogant attitude. It was the perfect way to continue the character. And when you go after someone's mum, it goes really personal. And this was fantastic.
That's personal now, isn't it? And Trey was not happy in the slightest on this one, was he?
No.
Obviously led to a couple of matches that we had with Ace. Now, the story I wanted to say was, because this is now leading quite nicely into those New York tapings. Whenever Ace went in the ring at the tapings, I think I've told you this offline, but at the Melrose Ballroom, you've got like you've got the lower level, and you've also got like a balcony thing that goes around the top. You don't really see much of those. But there are people up there. On one side, I think it was if you were looking at it for the television's coming in on this direction, it was this side. So on this side, quite a lot of the roster was watching the show. So you had Sammy was pretty much up there the whole time, watching over. You had like the Rascals were up there, the North were up there, so Ethan Page was up there. Actually, I think when he released his vlog, one of his vlogs about 2 or 3, not long after the New York tapings, he showed a video clip of some fan in the crowd, which he thought was amazing. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was at the New York tapings. But anyway, so there was a load of them all up there. I think Jess Havoc was up there. Gail Kim was up there. There was quite a few. There was a lot of the roster up there supporting, chanting and cheering and clapping and videoing, and all sorts of stuff was going on up there. And that for me was actually one of the things that made my trip, actually, because it was really good to see the support and love that the entire locker room have for each other. That they're up there supporting them. They're watching every match, and I thought that was really good. But every time Ace came out, Sammy Callahan was at the top going, "Ace Austin sucks. Ace Austin sucks." And they've got loads of it. So whenever you know, it was almost like they were helping to create a chant or anything like that. You had then people would go, let's go Austin, or let's go
build the heat up.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got Sammy at the top going, Ace, Austin sucks. Ace, Austin sucks. And it was, you know, he was sort of kind of, it was funny. It was really funny to see that, because then, and of course the whole roster were joining in, because at the end of the day, he's supposed to be a scumbag, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was, yeah. So I thought that was great. You know, it's obviously all done in good fun, and they're clearly, you know, pulling his chain and having a laugh with him. But it was. I thought that was really fun. It was a good thing to see. So obviously we had all of that going on. Most of that started around that New York taping time. I think it was a little bit before, and then it sort of kind of started really getting solidified at that point, because there was one of the matches was where Trey's mom was in the crowd, and basically Ace went down there and started chatting her up and trying to get a kiss out of her and all that kind of stuff, which then distracted Trey, and then we ended up, and then obviously we ended up with Trey losing because of it. And I think that so I think that worked really well. And do you know what? That they also did was they put Trey Miguel's mum on Twitter. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yes, well, she's on Twitter. She still is on Twitter. Trey's mum is on Twitter, or the person that plays Trey's mum is on Twitter. So that I thought that was really funny. And then you had Ace then interacting with the Twitter account as well to create more heat. I thought that was really good. And do you know what? I mean, the interaction that we've then seen from Ace and Trey have been some of the best X Division matches of the last sort of 12 months. Would you agree?
Very, very solid matches, and very, very, very intense matches as well. I have to agree fully. You know, we had Rich Swann pull off some fantastic stuff when he was X Division champion, and Ace Austin and Trey Miguel took it from a high flying style back to mat wrestling, a bit more mat wrestling, and a bit more hard hitting.
Hard hitting, yeah. I think it's a lot more hard hitting. You've got, but because both of them can fly, you're starting to get some real spectacular stuff going on as well. I mean, Trey is so fast. I mean, Ace is pretty quick, but he's a bit bigger than Trey, isn't he? So, but like Trey is like, he gets some offensive going. If you blink, you've missed 3 or 4 moves. So fast. I mean, when I saw them fight live, like, my God, it was so, like, it was incredible. They just moved around the ring like lightning. And then when they hit each other, you know, it was quite hard hitting. It was proper strong stuff. They weren't letting go. And of course, you know, when you think about it, based on the storyline, it had to be that way, you know, because at the end of the day, Trey wants to beat the crap out of him because he's hitting on his mum, right? Yeah,
it was emotionally charged, and Trey Miguel is a fantastic athlete, and the matches were just awesome. It's really hard to sum it up any other way. The matches were fantastic, and the rivalry was brilliant.
It's been built up, hasn't it? And then we obviously we head into Hard to Kill. We head into Hard to Kill, and again, you know, wow, what you know, incredible stuff we had going on there.
Yeah, I was actually I forgot who won that match. Was that Ace Austin who won?
Yes, Ace won, because that was the title match, wasn't it? Yeah. So Ace won. But again, what happened was that was an incredible match. I mean, God, they left everything in the ring. So effectively, what happened at that moment in time was that Ace then won the match. Trey sort of kind of like all defeated and deflated and all the rest of it. He starts to walk out, leave Ace to it. As Ace then effectively sort of kind of like, yeah, I'm the winner, blah, blah, blah. He then comes down, goes over to Trey's mom, and then starts hitting on her, trying to get kiss out of her and all this kind of stuff, because now he's the X Division champ and all that. Of course, Trey cops it, and he comes down the ring like, he comes down the ramp like lightning and starts, beating 10 bells and shit out of him. That all had to be broken up and all the rest. Yeah, so it was that was, do you remember that now?
Yeah, all the backstage fights they had really helped just boost both of them, and both of them are on right at the top at the moment for the X Division. But the backstage fights they had were really intense. And
yeah, exactly.
It's all just fantastic storytelling again from Impact Wrestling. They know how to get people over, and people just don't want to see it more than anything else.
Yeah, it's just incredible. So then obviously, that then leads to the more up-to-date stuff. And of course, now we're seeing Ace being kind of elevated even more. Not only is he X Division champion, but he is now being elevated into the world championship scene, because of course he's already defeated Tessa once before to win the X Division championship. So at the end of the day, that must mean that he is better than her. So the fact that he should be able to win the world championship, right?
Oh yeah, hats off to Tessa for winning the world championship. I'm sure we'll come to her eventually. But Ace Austin's got one over her. Taya Valkyrie had one over her. Both of them had bragging rights, and it was time that they kicked off the year with that in mind, and it was the best way to kick off 2020 with bragging rights and Taya Valkyrie and Ace Austin. So really shoot Tessa Blanchard down after she just beaten one of the most dangerous men in the whole roster.
Yeah, she's all of a sudden, we've got these two people coming up and saying, "Well, I've beaten you," and the other, "Well, I've also beaten you." I actually really like the way they did that, because obviously Tessa came out to the ring. It was the very first episode from Mexico. We had Tessa coming out to the ring, doing a promo, talking about she did it her way, that kind of thing, and she's not hard to find and all that kind of stuff. As we had the big knit stuff that happened the previous week from which involved Sami Callihan saying that you won't see me coming and all that kind of stuff. So she's giving it the whole, well, I'm here, I'm not hard to find, I'm waiting for you kind of scenario, whatever. So as she's sort of kind of like doing a promo based around Sami Callihan, we then get Taya Valkyrie come out, don't we? So Taya's then like, well, hang on a minute, I beat you to become the world, to become the Knockouts champion, and the longest reigning one, actually, funny enough.
In Mexico.
In Mexico, which is also what made that really cool. And then as she's, making her claim, we see Ace come out to the ring, and he's sort of like, well, hang on a minute. I also have claim to this. I've also beaten you. If you remember rightly, I pushed you off a ladder, and then we get the whole, I'm on top of you. I don't mind being on top of you. And then it was like, or maybe even in the hotel room later or whatever.
Yeah, that forearm to him, that was fantastic.
Yeah, but again, it continued the whole scumbaggery of his character. It was like, how is he going to continue the scumbaggery? And that's how he did it. He just ended his promo with the total scumbag move, and he got a forearm from hell for his words. Because she absolutely lumped him with that forearm. He went down. She's on top of him, going nuts, absolutely nuts. Of course, Taya takes advantage of that, and then of course we get the whole Trey Miguel coming out to save Tessa, which that kind of worked for me. I kind of like that. That's kind of again, we're now intertwining storylines. So he's only, in reality, Trey Miguel's coming out to help Tessa for one reason. It's because he wants to kick Ace Austin's ass. right? He probably doesn't care about Tessa. All he's interested in is kicking Ace Austin's ass. So
he needs revenge.
Obviously he comes out, he needs his revenge, right? So so then obviously that then leads to where we're sort of kind of up to now, where we ended up with a match that night of a tag team match. Again, where Trey ends up being pinned. So again, we're not seeing Tessa pinned because if we see Tessa pinned, that makes her weak. So yeah, Trey has to eat the pin. So she loses, but she doesn't eat the pin. That then obviously has led to a couple of matches with Ace, and obviously she's ended up defeating Ace, which is great. Then the X Division title goes on the line. We get the backstage thing with the X Division title on the line, and of course that ends in a DQ, if I remember rightly. So that ends with a DQ. So again, neither of them have lost effectively. So Ace has not lost.
Neither of them have got.
No, neither of them have lost. So that they're both looking strong still. So and then we obviously that leads into the stuff that's which has now happened with Taya, and of course this week as of this taping of this show, obviously Taya's been defeated, and Tessa is moving on as the world champion, but Ace's role in this, I mean, the matches with Tessa were really good, weren't they?
Yeah, the last match I've seen with the Ace Austin versus Tessa Blanchard at Sacrifice.
That's right.
That was a fantastic match. I've not watched this week's Impact taping yet, so I'm about a week behind everybody else. So I've not seen Taya Valkyrie versus Tessa Blanchard yet. But Ace Austin's last match against Tessa Blanchard at Sacrifice, I think if they're going to leave the rivalry there for now, because Ace Austin's still got option C, and he's made that clear himself. He's basically saying he doesn't need to beat Tessa Blanchard because he's always got an ace up his sleeve, full pun intended.
Exactly.
So
actually,
so
let's talk about.
Sorry, you continue.
Yeah, sorry. Let's talk about Ace's entrance. Do you think that's cool? Where he comes out, does his old, does the appearing cane, does the whole showing his ace and sticking it in his mouth and all that kind of stuff. Did you like all of that?
I love it. That was one of the massive things that caught my attention as soon as he come out to the ring, and it makes him a great showman. It makes him stand out from everybody else, and he does the paper cuts of the card, which is like what you'd see from Jimmy Havoc. So you can see Ace Austin. He'll pull out any trick in the book to just get an advantage, and the trick with the cane popping out of nowhere, and that was impressive. He did it against Tommy Dreamer in the street fight he had against him as well. He popped that out of nowhere and whacked Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy Dreamer fell onto the ropes and busted his nuts.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah. That's interesting. Actually, we should mention that match. Actually, I sort of glossed over that one, but yeah, the Tommy Dreamer match, the hardcore street fight match or whatever it was, that was insane. That one of the bits that really stood out for me was when I think they put it on loop as well. Ace ends up in the crowd. He gets up on some sort of barrier and then does some amazing flip onto Tommy Dreamer. That was Was it a moonsault? It might have been a moonsault. I think it was a moonsault onto Tommy, and that was amazing. If anyone ever doubted that Tommy Dreamer has still got some skill and still got the ability to go, it must have been alleviated in that match.
I've never doubted Tommy Dreamer, and you only got to listen to him talking and read what he's got to say. Tommy Dreamer's heart is always going to be in the ring, and he'll give whatever he can, regardless of how fit he is. And Tommy Dreamer is unkillable.
Yeah.
Ace Austin and Tommy Dreamer. While Tommy Dreamer's involvement in the whole thing was justifiable because he's always been sticking his neck out for Tessa Blanchard. So, well, people might be rolling their eyes at another Tommy Dreamer appearance. So it's just a fallback. It goes back to when Tessa Blanchard was getting all the shit from Sami Callihan, and you'd have Tommy Dreamer and Rich Swann back in Tessa Blanchard up. So, well, a bit predictable to see Tommy Dreamer.
It's all about intertwining storylines, right?
Yeah,
it's about intertwining the storylines.
Yeah, well, it was a bit predictable seeing Tommy Dreamer coming out. He doesn't just disappoint whenever he's in a match. So, and like you said, we've been talking about, they carry on in relationships between superstars. So what's the point in not having Tommy Dreamer come out if nobody else is there to back Tessa Blanchard up?
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I agree. I was expecting Daga to come out, to be honest, because obviously, I know that I'm not sure that they sort of kind of. It's not that they don't acknowledge the fact that those two are together. I think it's more like Daga needs to sort of do his thing and break out and be his own man.
Yeah.
Without us sort of saying, well, he's Tessa's partner kind of thing. I don't think he does it now, but I think when he first came in, he did sort of like have a diamond on his trunks and stuff, or on the trousers that he wears. But I think that's gone. I got a funny feeling that's gone now, and they really are trying to push him as an individual, as a star in his own merit. So I think if they'd have brought him out in that moment, that probably wouldn't have worked. And I know that Jay and Trent mentioned it on one of their review shows that they thought they were expecting Daga to come out because of the relationship. But like I said, I think that at the end of the day, they're trying not to acknowledge the relationship side of things, which is very much what they ended up. I mean, they started that way with Taya, if you remember rightly, where they didn't really acknowledge it. But then obviously eventually they sort of kind of brought that together, the husband and wife thing and all the rest of it, and it worked really well for them. Who knows? Maybe later on, when Daga potentially starts to elevate himself, that they'll start putting them together a bit. I don't know, but because I think they would make one hell of a tag team. But that would be an interesting way for that to go. But I think Tommy Dreamer at that moment in time was probably the right person to interject into that storyline because he can elevate it. And I don't know, have you listened to J Bone's conspiracy theory? Because he thinks that the leader of ICU is Tommy Dreamer. Did you see that show where he talked about that?
No, I haven't. But thinking about it, if Tommy Dreamer was the leader of ICU, that would be one of the biggest shocks ever, because it's looking less and less likely it's Matt Hardy now.
In my
eyes, it's Sami Callihan.
Right, but when you think about it, Sami keeps stating that or he stated that Tessa's not going to see it coming. She's never going to see it coming, right? So this is his idea. Now, Tommy is sort of kind of always been there to help Tessa. He's always been there, isn't he? Always been around. He's always been, the person that sort of promotes Tessa, etc. And, always had her back kind of thing. So, who better to turn on her than Tommy Dreamer, right?
Yeah, it would be probably the biggest pop of 2020 if that was the case. So I don't know whether I'm down with it. I don't know, but I think it's a good theory. I think props to J Bone for coming up with that. I think that was it's definitely an interesting take on it. I mean, I have my theories. As we all know, I do put myself forward. I still think Matt is coming to Impact. I also think that there is some kind of almost like a working relationship between the companies. It's just an unspoken one, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And they're all sort of kind of working together. So it'd be interesting to see how that all kind of pans out, actually. But you know, if it's not Matt, you know, the other person I was thinking it might have been was Austin Aries. You know, he would be like if suddenly after everything that went on in that, like, you know, at that Bound for Glory, you know, after everything that went down and everything else, and all of a sudden Ace Austin comes back as the leader of ICU, that would be, I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, hey, we're not here to talk about that. But I'll tell you what, funny enough though, don't you think that Ace would probably make quite an addition to the ICU?
I think Ace Austin's probably better being his own man. Yeah, I could see him. You know, you see him with Reno Scum, and those are the sort of people that he should be working with, rather than you know, if Reno Scum and Ace Austin were to form a proper stable, that would work for me more than Ace Austin jumping out of character to something else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We've seen how that affected guys like James Storm and Eli Drake, and it never worked out for them. And it'd be a shame to do that to someone like Ace Austin, even though he's so early on in his career. He's already made himself a brand as this scumbag, as this womanizer, as this complete nasty arsehole. So to have him jump to something else, it wouldn't work out for me. It might probably benefit him in the long term or something, but for me, if you're gonna make him into some sort of big powerhouse type thing, make him work with Reno Scum a lot more and keep them as a faction.
Talking about working the angle of the total scumbag. Did you see the video that he put up the other day with where he interacted with Trent's better half, the wrestling nurse? Did you see that?
No, I've not.
Oh mate, there's a thing on Twitter where he's obviously at AAW. He's walking through the back corridor, and Trent's better half, Nikki. She comes walking down. She's got her like nurse stuff going on, and Ace sort of kind of, hey, hello there, and yeah. So he's like, yes, I've got a bit of a cut on my lip and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, so he's sort of basically scumbagging on Trent's visits, which I thought was really funny. And her reaction to it was quite good too. She was like, "Oh no, I have got a partner. Yeah, it was funny. So, but I think it ended with, "Are you married?" And she's like, "No, but I have a boyfriend." And he's like, "Oh, really?" and that was pretty much how it ended. Because then all of a sudden, that made him even more interested, because he's obviously already got a boyfriend. Because that's how totally scumbaggy Ace is. But yeah, no, I think if you to sum Ace up over the last 12 months, he has improved and he has grown, and he has become an integral part of storytelling within the Impact roster, hasn't he?
He's been one of the most hardest workers on the roster, and time has flown. I knew he'd come in around the Canadian tapings last year and the first set in Canada. The first set in about March, but his whole time there has just flown by, and you look back at it now, it's unbelievable that he's been a very, very prominent figure. And he's working in about 2 or 3 different companies, well, probably even more than 2 or 3 different companies. He's like a lot of the wrestlers on Impact. They work multiple places, and for him to consistently be there at Impact as well as everywhere else is just testament to his ability as a performer in general.
Yeah, I mean, and we've not seen him get injured or anything like that. I mean, he's still a young man who's obviously very versatile and still nice and nimble, etc. He's not. He doesn't seem to get injured, especially considering the style that he works. You know, I mean, he's a bit high flying, he's quite hard hitting. He does take a bump well. So you would have thought that he might have got a little bit of an injury, but no, he hasn't. He hasn't got anything. And I think he's an integral part of the build and the rebrand and the rebuilding of the Impact product over the last, certainly over the last year that he's been there. and I know that Scott D'Amore are very high on him. They like, you know, whenever you have interviews, they always bring Ace up as a, you know, the future of the company. And I think, you know, he obviously knows this, and I think it's great to see that. You know, I mean, they always mention Ace Austin, Jordan Grace, and people like that, don't they? They always mention those guys. Kira Hogan, they mention quite regularly. So I think that you know, it's clear to see that Impact are fully invested in producing and bringing Ace Austin up to be you know, a real big star of the brand, and that's great to see. I mean, where do you see Ace moving in the future then?
I see him cashing in the X Division title.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to happen. Yeah,
I think it would be a lot better for him rather than losing. Although if he was to go rekindle the rivalry with Trey Miguel and lose it there, or go against TJP and lose it to TJP, that would be interesting to see them two go off. Yeah. But I think I think Tessa Blanchard's going to hold on to the title for a lot longer, and Moose had recently given an interview saying that he's not comfortable taking on Tessa Blanchard. So where things go we've got Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin, how they're going to play out. If one of them's going to go against Tessa Blanchard, then we'll see if how that goes.
I think what Impact have done is they've been very clever in the way they're picking her opponents, because, you know, like you say, there's no point in picking Moose, because at the end of the day, you know, the dude is huge and he's just making her look like a midget. And you know, there's no way she can match his power. If she was to win cleanly over Moose, that would then make the whole thing a joke.
The win she got over Brian Cage was down to technical ability rather than to
and Brian had been going at it like with two other wrestlers. He was tired at that moment. You can almost use, you know, there are things that you could use to say this is why Tessa managed to get one over on Brian. If it was a one-on-one, not in a month of Sundays. Not a beating Brian would be totally unrealistic. So I think that they're being clever. They're being clever. You know, they pick Ace. Ace is roughly the same sort of height. I mean, obviously he's thicker than her, but you know. He's not huge, so he's roughly about the same sort of height, so that works. You know, same with Sammy. Sammy's roughly a similar size in height, and all. It doesn't, so they don't look. It doesn't look ridiculous, you know. Like when you put Madman Fulton, you know, Madman Fulton is just ginormous, and there's no way that she should be winning over him, right? It looks ridiculous. So I think they're doing the right thing. They're putting her in with the right opponents. You know, and again, you know, now that she's champion, why can't you have a woman, another woman challenger for that title? You know, which they've done with Taya. You know, so everything that they're doing now makes sense. You know, they're pulling it through. It also helps her prolong her title reign. I think they'll keep it on her for about 6 months. I think. I don't think it lasts longer than that, because eventually she's going to have to get beaten by, you know, a bigger, stronger person. You know, she has. And, you know, but, you know, at that moment, she's been solidified. You know, she's got her place in history as the very first woman to win, you know, a predominantly male world championship title, and also defend it. So, I think give it 6 months, then it'll end up going back to a guy, I think, and that may even, you know what, it might even be Ace Austin.
Yeah, I see Ace Austin cashing in. He'll win it or fall short, and then Tessa Blanchard will lose to whoever comes afterwards. But I'd love to see Tessa Blanchard and Ace Austin really go to hell on each other again. Because if you guys haven't seen the match at Sacrifice, you're missing something really special. I love that match. That
was an amazing match. The storytelling was good. The hard hitting was good. We had some serious athleticism. That was a top-notch match, and yeah, I would recommend that if you haven't seen it, that you get yourself on the Impact Plus app, and you watch it, because that was one hell of a match. So I think we've come to the end of our time. We've hit an hour and 4 minutes. I'm absolutely gobsmacked we managed to do that on a character that's only been in the company for 12 months. Yeah, but it just goes to show how much he's done in that 12 months to build himself up as a prominent character, triple X division champion on the roster, and how much faith Impact clearly have in him, I think is clear to see, don't you think?
Definitely. Ace Austin, well done, mate. Congratulations.
Yeah, you've done it, son. You're a complete scumbag, and we love you for it. I think the character is awesome. Okay, so yeah, let's wind it up. So that was Ace Austin. So what a fantastic character he is, and we're really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do over the next in the future, however long that may be, but certainly over the next 6 to 12 months or so. We're really looking forward to seeing what you do. If you continue in the same vein that he has done over the last 12 months, well, I think the dude's going to be huge come this time next year. I think we could probably end up doing another show based on Ace Austin, just on what's gone on in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Who knows? You may be coming around to Ace Austin 2 on Impacted. So I think it's been good. I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes. Okay, so let's do a few thank yous. So I'd just like to say thank you again to the Total Nonstop Impact team of Trent, J-Bone, and Scumbag Kyle when he does make an appearance. Yes, Kyle, where are you? We miss you. Come on, lad. So I just want to say thank you to those guys. Don't forget to leave us some nice comments or leave us some horrible comments. I really don't care. But Joe does like responding to all of you guys. I don't generally get as much time to respond to the comments on the YouTubes, especially. But Joe does like to reply, don't you, mate?
Yeah, I'll be checking up on the comments as they come along, even if it's not straight away. But I will be checking back at the comments. Yeah. I'll give you guys my opinion. I'll continue the conversation. I'll even give us a couple of ideas of who you want to see next, and we'll try and sort something out. I'd also like to give a shout out to the guys at Total Nonstop Impact for hosting us. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, I think we're here now. We're building the channel. We're all part of the Total Nonstop Impact family. So so don't forget to head over to the YouTube channel, smash the bell, and hit subscribe. Smash it. Don't forget, you don't want to miss a listen on any of the stuff that we do. So obviously, we've got the weekly review show with Trent and J-Bone, sometimes Kyle the Scumbag. We've also got, which also shows on the Impact Lounge as well, so don't forget that. But primarily, we've got that. We've also got the obviously we've got Impacted, which is what you're watching now, but we also have the TNI throwback TNA NWA show, which Trent and Jay do every week. I think they're up to episode 10 or 11 now, so they are doing a great review. So if you want to follow that, if you want to watch if you want to sort of kind of get involved in the comments side of stuff when they do that, don't forget to sign up to the Impact Plus. Where you can then obviously watch all of the shows that they're watching, because the full library's on there, as well as lots of great fresh and new stuff going on there as well. I think obviously Gut Check's going on there now. We've got Explosions on there. We've got obviously all of the back catalogue stuff. The weekly show is on there as well. So if for instance you're obviously in the UK and you can't wait, then it goes up on there before you can see it the following night on a Wednesday, because it's over here on the Fight Network on a Wednesday. But you can literally see it a couple of hours after it's aired in the US on the Impact Plus app. That's how I watch it generally. So you know, there's so much stuff that you can do. There's so much stuff. So if you wanted to follow them, you're more than welcome to do that. And when you're watching when you're watching their show, you can sort of kind of relate to it and ask questions as well. They do like to because obviously that particular show is interactive, it's live, so you guys can interact with them. All shows from the Total Nonstop Impact team are available wherever you podcast. So if you're a listener, if you just listen to these podcasts, then they're available on your iTunes, your SoundCloud, etc. You know, they're available wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as obviously you can watch us. If you are at the moment, you can watch us on the YouTube channel as well. So there's plenty of stuff going on. Everything's available. All the back catalogue stuff's being uploaded as we speak. So again, you'll never miss a listen. You can listen at your leisure. So that works really well. No excuses. This is Access Era now, baby. We're available wherever podcasts are available. So yeah, so that's fantastic. Yeah, so we've mentioned all of that stuff. Where can we find you, Joe?
You can find me on Twitter at JOK empty space. If you want to find me on Facebook, look for Joe O'Keefe. Put a hashtag in for empty space or the void, and you'll find me there. I'm sure you'll find a link to one of the groups I've been posting, or you'll find a link to my profile from that hashtag. Just keep an open perspective, because on Facebook it's a lot more weirder than it is on Twitter.
Yeah, you are quite strange, Joe, aren't you, my friend? You are quite strange, but in a good way, mate. So yeah, so I think there's lots of stuff out there. Please don't hesitate to like Joe, follow him on Twitter, etc. He's a great wrestling fan, and he does like to interact with everybody and talk a lot of wrestling. He does enjoy it. If you want to follow the Bison on Twitter, that's at JB Hawk. That's at JB Hawk HAWKE. You know, more than welcome to follow me, check out some of the stuff. Basically I use Twitter as like my wrestling persona, so you'll find me on there. If you want to interact, I'm happy to interact and talk wrestling. If you want to find me on Facebook, Jason Hawk is where I am. You won't miss me. I definitely, you know, I'm in quite a few wrestling groups and stuff like that, and I do like to talk about my wrestling. I do enjoy it. Don't talk to me about WWE. I mention this every single week. Don't talk to me about WWE. I'm an Impact fan. I also like AEW, and I do like a lot of other promotions like AAW, Wrestling Revolver, WAW from the UK. Big fan of that. So, you know, lots and lots of wrestling. I'm happy to talk about all of it. But yeah, okay. So don't forget, TNI, We Talk Impact on Twitter as well, at We Talk Impact. So don't forget to go and subscribe to that, or go and follow them on Twitter as well. So anyway, finish off today. That is Joe. I am Bison. This has been Impacted. Take care, guys.
Take care.